Always remember this of that snooker competition where they said the red ball is the one behind the green ball, and it was only on a black and white TV. Right, welcome everybody. This is, would you believe it, the 54th AGM of the Belmont South Cheam Residents Association. And I'd like to welcome everybody to this in-person meeting. We've been umming and ahhing committee as to whether we should have in-person meetings or whether we should go to Zoom. I think when we had the last one of these meetings, everyone was quite supportive of actually having another in-person meeting. So here we all are. I mean, does that still stand? Is there anybody here who would prefer to have a Zoom meeting? No, presumably if you're all here, it's a bit of a problem actually. This is a bit like asking turkeys if they like Christmas, isn't it really? Because the very people who would say I'd like to have a Zoom meeting, of course, aren't here. Anyway, some logistical information. In the event of fire, probably the best thing to do is follow me, because I'm going to be out of here like crazy. But the best thing to do is the door behind you, or if that's blocked, I think we can get out this way. Certainly there's a fire exit sign there. And if anybody needs the loos, they're just out of the door and turn left. They're sort of behind that bit of wall there, so out of the left, turn left, and they're on your left. Anyway, some welcomes. Our guest speaker this evening will be Luke Taylor, our MP. Luke's actually joining us this evening. And he's our MP for constituency of Sutton and Cheam, and he's going to give us some feedback on his experiences of becoming a new MP, and also a little bit about what he's been up to since he was elected last July. I'm also pleased to welcome in the audience some of our ward councillors. Just looking around, who have we got? We've got Tony, Councillor Shields in the back, Councillor Hicks is somewhere. Yeah, okay. I think Jane and Neil have apologised. Yes, I think you are our council representatives, aren't you? So anyway, welcome. Okay, this works. Right, our agenda is pretty much as normal. Because this is our AGM, there are some formalities that we have to go through. So there will be the elections, which we undertake, so that if you're happy with what I and the rest of the committee are doing, we can actually get elected in for another year of fun-filled excitement. And then after that, I'll hand over to Luke, who will do the session. I've also got some more detailed slides on one or two other things as well, which I will come on to after Luke's spoken. In the main, I wanted to spend a little bit of time just actually looking at this new planning application that's gone in for the London Cancer Hub. So I welcome some feedback from people on that. Okay, so let's kick off the chairman's report. Oh, by the way, yes, I'm hoping to have finished by 9:45. So if you've left something in the oven and you're expecting to be home before that, then you'll have to leave earlier. Okay, I'm reporting here. This is my as my wife will probably tell you, far too long. It's like 19th year as chairman. And I'm sure most of you are aware of the wide range of activities that the association is involved with over the past years, because hopefully you all get my e-bulletins. You're probably only here because you've had an e-bulletin from me, which is announcing it. Is anybody here who doesn't get my e-bulletins? Okay, that's promising. I am a bit concerned that quite a lot of our emails, which is why if anybody talk to anybody, I always ask them to email to me. Quite a lot of my emails do go into people's spam folders, and they don't always see them. Much of the information that goes out in those e-bulletins actually comes from other members. I mean, we like to play our bit for community and circulate things about what other organisations are doing in the foot of the e-bulletin. We're also represented on the Council's local committee. I'm one of the community reps on the local committee, and I also chair the Cheam and Bill Safer Neighbourhood Team Ward panels. You may be aware, yes, I'm also, we try to keep in close contact with the British Legion. As you know, I think we've all felt it's vitally important to keep the local Belmont branch of the British Legion up and running. Because of the importance of it is towards the being able to do the Remembrance Sunday parade. I'm also the treasurer of that, and Keith White, who is Keith, are you here this evening? I haven't seen him actually. He was going to be coming along. He's the chairman. The branch is the branch 100th anniversary this year. It was founded in 1925. And there's been one or two things actually going on. I don't know whether any of you went. There was a lovely Thanksgiving service actually in the church a couple of weekends ago. And there's some other things coming up during the year. So yes, I mean, I think it's important that we keep that branch going. Originally, the Residents Association was set up to monitor planning applications, and this continues to be probably one of the most significant things that we do. Just to give you a feel of it, there are typically about 6 planning applications every week in our area. And you know, we look at them. I don't know, as I told you last year, the council's actually stopped notifying residents of planning applications through letters through their doors. They only put up things on street lamps. So what we do now is, for those people who are on our e-bulletin list, we also have a thing called a planning watch service. And basically we notify people who are on our email list if we see something, not of everything, because quite a lot of planning applications are fairly innocuous, but if something comes up which we think might be significant, then we will email people and see what they think. But in addition to planning, increasingly we're involved with other matters, traffic, parking, trees and the like. During the COVID years, we didn't ask our residents to knock on doors and collect subscriptions. And as a consequence, we're aware that we may not have made contact with a number of new residents who've moved into our area. But we're now looking actively to get in contact with those residents. So we're trying to bolster up our road steward network. And Paul Arnold will say a few words more about that in a moment. But it's quite. I mean, we have quite a formidable network of road stewards. I don't mean to say that the road stewards are formidable, but we have over 100 servicing our area. With this in mind, we've also distributed nearly 5,000. In fact, I printed 5,000. Hopefully, you will have had the copy of the newsletter through your door. So we printed 5,000 of these. And if you haven't got any of those, there are some spares on the table over there. But again, those are delivered to you by your local road steward, apart from where we have vacancies. In which case it's been delivered by one of the committee. Thanks to the work done by Paul Arnold, our treasurer, we've also got the ability for members to pay their subscriptions online, which actually makes the road steward's task a lot easier, because in the past it was always you had to knock on the door and try and squeeze some cash out of people. What's cash these days? Anyway, all of you can actually help. I mean, if you know any of your neighbours who maybe aren't members, try and do a selling job for them and actually get them to join up. Okay, so what have we been up to during the year? That's the slide there. Monitoring planning applications. There's quite a lot actually that we're doing in relation to the London Cancer Hub. In fact, we've been working with Socius, who are the developers, quite closely. And feeding input into them. We've also been talking to the Epsom and St Helier again about the. I mean, you've probably heard the bad news about the hospital. Actually, just back onto the Cancer Hub at the moment. There will be some slides that I'd like to run through at the end if we have time. A new planning application has just been submitted. It's what's called a hybrid application. Which means it's in 2 parts. There's a detailed part and there's an outline part. The detailed part basically covers the buildings they're going to do initially, and then there's a rough idea as to what they're going to do in terms of the second phase. The planning application was only published to the public on Saturday, and we've already started to have a look at it. It's quite a formidable application. It's got, if you go onto the website, there's something like 130 documents that comprise the application, so it's fairly formidable. But if you want to have a look at it, there are just 2 that it's worthwhile actually looking at. One is the design and access statement, which is a mere 104 pages, and the transport assessment, for those of you who want a little bit more bedtime reading, which is 454 pages. And that's just 2 of the documents. So anyway, we'll cover that a bit later. As I was saying, the one application that we've not had to comment on is an application to build a new specialist emergency care hospital, which has been proposed by Epsom and St Helier NHS Trust. I don't know whether any of you remember, but it was in 2020 we were in this hall listening to Daniel Elkerles, who was the then chief executive of the Epsom and St Helier NHS Trust. He told us that plans were proceeding well and that the hospital will be ready in 2025. Well, if I look at my calendar, I think he's got 6 months to go. Clearly, and that was including refurbishment of Epsom and St Helier hospitals as well. Subsequently, also in this very room, we actually had a presentation from Daniel's successor who said that he was sorry, but the availability was going to be slipped and it would now not be available till 2030. However, as you've probably seen in the press, construction is now unlikely to start until 2032 at the earliest, unless Luke's actually got some last-minute breaking news he can tell us. And assuming a 5-year construction programme, which is what were told in the past, it means to say that the new hospital is unlikely to be available for occupation until at least 2037. Debate about the new hospital for area has been ongoing for the best part of 30 years, I can remember. I think we're probably all, those of you who lived in the area for some time, I mean, it's been talked about for, well, 30 years, over 30 years. Even now, though, there's discussion about where the hospital should be located. The Trust ran a comprehensive consultation programme, started in 2017 and ran through to 2019 as part of a programme they called Building Your Future Hospitals. And the outcome, taking into account the views of medical professionals and feedback from the public, was that Belmont was the optimum location. I mean, all locations have got pluses and minuses, but on balance, the view was that the old Sutton Hospital site was the preferred location for it. And personally, I think, okay, there are some pros and cons, but they made a decision, let's go with it. Unfortunately, there does seem to be still a bit of toing and froing by certainly some politicians, particularly from further north of the area, who are objecting to the proposal and say that it should be closer to Merton, that it would be easier for their residents to gain access. I mean, personally, I think what's important is that a decision's been made, we need to get on with it. And I think these days, the idea about just having your hospital on your doorstep so you can pop around and go into A&E or whatever, I think that's not the point. I think the decisions these days, I mean, there's so much you can do in an ambulance these days. The ambulance picks somebody up, they can do so much triaging there, and they will take that person to the best place. And I think we need to rely on that as a system. I think this idea of having to have a hospital on your doorstep is a little 1960s and not really what people are doing in the 21st century. I mean, the other point as well is what's the point of building a hospital at a specialist hospital in the north of the area? I mean, St Helier, for instance, is only 4 miles from St George's. So wouldn't it be better to have the hospital spaced out a wee bit? Okay, moving on. Our neighbourhood plan. I'm just trying to think if I've got a slide on that. Have I got a slide on that? Yeah, we speak every year about our neighbourhood plan. It is progressing, but at rather snail's pace, I'm afraid. In fact, I had a conversation only this afternoon with the council. At the moment, the ball is in their court for actually finalising this thing. We have a finalised document. We spent a long time actually putting it. It's 100 plus pages. We're happy that it's now complete. We've just got to get the council, though, to actually complete the process for us. And we've only this afternoon, actually, I think I've set up a meeting for next week to actually talk to them about actually doing that. The plan, however, does also, it's not only planning stuff in it, but the plan does also cover some ideas of things we'd like to have funded. And we are pressing ahead with plans to try to get some of those either funded but possibly by ourselves. You remember last year we funded a defibrillator in Belmont Village. Some of the things we may actually approach the local committee, our chairman sitting in the back row, and see whether we could fund 1 or 2 things. And there's other places as well that we may be able to go. So I think regardless of whether the plan's actually been formally put into operation, there are a lot of things that I think we can actually do. What else have we got on here? If I go back up again. Parking is a perennial chestnut. In fact, we've got an activity going on at the moment to actually make some more parking changes in the area. One of them is in Hillside Road. We want 11 till 12 parking restriction to prevent commuter parking. There's talks about some additional changes to the parking arrangements around the school to make enforcement easier to carry out. Some safety-based restrictions at the South Cheam end of North Down Road. And also I'm hoping that we'll get the 5 shoppers' bays back in California, close in Belmont Village, which the landlord a year ago arbitrarily took over and made them for residents only, which is against the original planning agreement. Another thing which is interesting, it's actually not on parking, but we're also hoping to get the post office back in Belmont. As you probably know, we spent a long time back in 2017 actually getting the post office opened. It was then in the pet stop, if you remember that. The lovely Lisa ran it. Sadly, Lisa was not a well lady, and she had to close in 2020. But it reopened in 2021 in Didi's. Sadly, that closed at the end of last year. And I have been chasing the post office to get a new branch open. I was worried that they would think that there wasn't a demand, but I think they were quite surprised at the demand that was generated when we opened the post office in Belmont. And I've been talking to some of the shopkeepers, and we're currently hoping that the proprietors of Belmont Food and Wine, who you may know have actually now taken over the shop opposite, which was called the Crescent Grocers. They have now made a proposal back to the post office to actually open a branch actually in the shop opposite. So that's the one next to the BSCRA restaurant. So we're hoping that we're going to get confirmation of that in a relatively small period of time, and then it's obviously got to be fitted out and so on and so forth. So things are moving on that front, which is good news. You may be also interested to know that the planning application to redevelop the Belmont Garage was granted on appeal last month, and the application grants permission to build 5 flats over a retail unit on the ground floor, probably a co-op. But we're currently, I'm in discussions with the developer at the moment. They're not quite sure. Money's tight everywhere at the moment, and I think they're sort of not sure as to whether they've actually got the money to rush into that at the moment. So watch this space. The other thing I mentioned trees. You've probably seen the tragic loss of trees in and around the area, and we've lost something like about 30 very big mature trees, and you'll see them. This one here on the left is sort of on its way out, I'm afraid. They're suffering from a thing called ash dieback. I won't attempt to pronounce the Latin names for it, but basically it makes the trees go brittle, and the council's obviously very concerned that they will become brittle and bits will fall off and fall on people's cars, or worse, on people. So we've got about we've had about 30 of these really big trees. They're probably 100 years old, actually taken out and replaced with young whippersnapper trees like this one down the bottom here, with a watering bag on it. What we need to do now, though, I need everybody, if you see one of these, we've actually got to keep them watered, because this has been one of the driest spring and early summers that we've actually had for many a year now. If you can, if there's ones outside your house, don't hesitate to actually tip some water into the bag to try and keep these trees alive. Because if we can't get them through the summer to the autumn, when hopefully the rains will come again, they will die. And although the money has been found to actually replace the trees once, probably not twice. So we do really need your help on that. Finally, I think I had here, I think I mentioned this last time, and one of the things that the association, we're doing in the association is to try and build community. I know when I talk to people in the village, they always say it's a lovely place to live because it's a lovely community and so on and so forth. And I do think that, I think in no small way the association actually helps with that. We've also, one of the other things we've been fostering as well is WhatsApp groups in our area, which are very popular. Often for just trivial things, but it's nice that you can actually get friends or neighbours or something like that to actually help you out with things. Ranging from, I've been told that packages arrived on my front doorstep. I suppose someone couldn't just look after it for me until I come back later or something like that. Increasingly, there's a large number of people who actually seem to have stray cats in their kitchen, and people actually take pictures of them and circulate pictures of cats and to try and find who really owns them and can they come and reclaim them, please. Anyway, they're a bit of a mix. Some of these WhatsApp groups we have actually set up ourselves, and we invite people to join them through our email list. Some of them have actually been set up by residents in those roads in their own right. But what we have done with all of these, I've got 2 representatives on every single one of those WhatsApp groups who are in what we call the BSCRA supergroup, which is like a cascade distribution mechanism. So if I want to get something out to all those groups, I can just post it once on their top level group, and then all the admins pick it up, and they can, if they think it's relevant, they can post it back on their group as well. Some of you, if you're part of one of the WhatsApp groups, I put one out about this meeting, for instance, so you may have seen this meeting actually on the WhatsApp group as well. Okay, so I think that's doing quite a bit, I think, to actually build community anyway. Okay, I think that's the main things I was going to say is in terms of what the association's actually been up to. Just some quick thank yous. I mentioned a little earlier on our Road Steward network. As I said, they're the eyes and ears of the association, and they're the ones that actually help us keep in contact with our members, because although we say we push stuff out via email, if people actually haven't given us their email address, we can't get in contact with them. So it's vital that we actually have people on the ground. As I said earlier, we need about 120 road stewards to run our area. We do still have some vacancies, but it's quite a formidable task actually running this. And if you know anybody who can volunteer and like to help us out with the number of vacancies I have, please either let me or Paul Arnold know, please. Some thank yous and before we move into the elections. I'm delighted to say that both of our current Treasurer, Paul, and General Secretary, Tony, have agreed to stand in that position again. You'll probably be interested to know that I've also said I will carry on for another year as well. Anyway, I would like to take this opportunity to thank them very much. I mean, they're oh gosh, I see a gun pointing at me from the back there from Mrs. M, but there we go. Paul's been our Treasurer now for 10 years and not only got the accounts under control, but also for a phenomenal amount of work he's done to rationalise all our membership records. And for those of you who are road stewards, you get the schedules that you actually get actually come from a massive database that Paul's actually created and is running, and also capturing details of all the electronic payments now that actually come in online. Managing our cash is a vital role, and Paul, thank you so much for actually all the work you do. I mean, I know it's a massive amount that you actually do to help with this. Also, Tony, also for actually keeping us well organised, keeping us. Where are you going, Tony? Oh, yeah, I'm seeing how we go. Yeah. And actually make sure that I do all the things that chair people actually have to do to be able to run an organisation like this. And again, thank you, Tony, for all the help that you provide as well. Okay, well, thanks to both. I think a little ripple, I think, would be good at that. So thank you very much. How are we doing? I'm also pleased to say, actually, that all of our committee members have agreed to stand again for the current year, which means to say there are no new members for me to introduce to you. But I think that's great, actually, because it means to say we've got some constancy and actually start building experience. I mean, turning over, getting new blood in is good from one hand, but on the other hand, it's quite good to have people who are experienced and know the sorts of things that we actually do. The committee's also, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, there are some things that me, Paul, and Tony maybe will decide upon, but I think the committee is really great, actually, because even though we only have 6 meetings in the year, we've got an email group, and if I want to get people's feedback as to whether you think, should the association be supporting this or objecting this, I can ping it out onto the group, and the committee is great. They'll come back to me and say, yeah, that's a great idea, or no, I wouldn't touch that with a barge pole. So thank you to all the committee as well for all your support. Both to me and the rest of the officers. Well, also on the subject of thank yous, thanks to our ward councillors at the back there for their support during the year, without whom we could not make many things happen. And of course, thank you to everybody else for actually being our members, because if you don't subscribe and actually become part of the association, then we won't exist. And finally, of course, is the lady in the back corner over there, who I have to thank for her patience and endurance of the time I spend on what I sometimes refer to as my hobby, but she said it's more like a job. But, yeah. Okay, I think that's enough of my chairman's report. Can we move, Paul, do you want to do the treasurer's report? And then we'll move into the elections. I'll use that one.
Can you hear me okay?
You might need to press the button on the bottom of it. Actually, no, just swap over. Take the swap.
Okay, better? Yes, I've done. Thank you very much, Peter. So let me turn to the screen. Peter, I'm going to cover the following areas in this update. Our 12-month financial period ending 31st December 2024. Thank colleagues and road stewards for their support. And hand back to Peter who will receive the elected officers, and Peter will then hand back to the elected director. So our 12-month financial period, 31st ending 31st December 2024. That's the income expenditure account. Next, Peter. We collected subs both online and for our road stewards going around door to door, and basically we had for the 12 months revenues totaling £3,301, surplus of £2,060, so very healthy indeed, and finish year with net assets of over £12,000 on the balance sheet. Please. Our membership numbers are based on the number of paid members. So you see there's 2135 email distribution as well compared to 1509. Peter and I have done had a lot of discussions on this. And basically, it's a significantly more people we're sending emails to than we have to paid members. So we have some actions in place to sort that out and basically emailing to people who want to pay online. A lot of this is work done by students. It's a challenge. Our online payment system has been a success at Square, and many people here have used that, and we are in a strong financial position. But as a alignment committee, although our bank accounts are healthy, we must recognise a significant part of that revenue is for future years, and our operating costs will have to come out of that. It is good to be in a good, strong financial position, and people may be wondering what we're going to do with that money. Well, I think I've said this for the last few years. The neighbourhood development plan, which I referred to earlier.
Do you want the next slide?
Yeah, it's the balance sheet, so 12,000 of net assets. So you can go on to the next one. Okay, registered vacancies there on that.
Oh, okay. I'll go back one.
There is a significant wish list of projects for the cluster area, and these are summarised in chapter 4.2 titled Our Community Projects of the Neighbourhood Development Plan. We're not suggesting that cluster funds should be used to pay for all of these items, but your committee may decide that selected projects warrant funding, but other funding sources are not available. That will be committee decisions. Such investment in Buster would not be possible without our road stewards delivering newsletters, collecting subs, providing them with contact details, and encouraging residents to pay online. So a big thanks to all of our road stewards. And thanks to the efforts of the road stewards, and where we have road steward vacancies to committee members over the last couple of weeks, we've delivered over 3,000 newsletters. That's the one that's been confirmed as just over 1,000 waiting for confirmation. And those payments coming online also. That's really good, so thank you very much, everybody. Peter mentioned road steward vacancies. We do have a number of those, so if anybody's interested, there are some road stewards here. Talk to the road steward, not onerous. We can give you badges to say who you are, etc. So it's a good thing to do. Peter has recently emailed people with many things for us to see volunteers from the existing residents to see if they're willing to stand as roasters. I'd also like to say thanks to Peter Matthews for all his hard work during the year, and to Helen for allowing Peter to put so much time into his work. One of the main things that Peter mentioned that's new this year is the planning watch e-bulletins. And those basically are because the council no longer does so much communication on planning applications. And it's a much needed gap to fill on those significant planning applications. So thank you very much, Peter. Now I'm going to hand back to Peter for the election of the officers.
Right. I think we've only got one microphone. I think the other battery's gone flat. Anyway, these little things are sent to trials. I don't know whether you can make it work, Rashid. Right. Okay. Elections. We'll try and whip through this reasonably quickly. Who we got? Right, as you can see, we've got, I need to get the words right on this, we've got 3 officers to be elected. We've decided this year, as we did last year actually, not to do the individual elections for each of the officers. We're just going to do ourselves as a block. Got 3 officers, to chairman, treasurer, general secretary. They've all indicated that they are willing to stand for re-election. Could somebody actually second that proposal, please? Hang on, who have we actually got? David. Got you. David Osborne. Where's Tony? Yeah. You make a note of that. And can I have a show of hands in support of these 3 officers being re-elected? Looks pretty good. Anybody think not? Helen's not allowed to vote on this one. Okay. So that looks like that's unanimously. I declare these 3 officers unanimously elected for the current year. Executive committee. Similar proposal. Right, these are our committee members. Actually, for the benefit of the rest of the audience, could any of the committee members in the audience actually stand up, please, just so people can see? Rashid, if you want to stand up as well. Thank you very much indeed. Can I have a seconder for these members being re-elected to the committee, please? Have a hand for that. Who have we actually got there? Hang on, come and shout their name out. Sorry, gentleman at the back, I'll take you. Right, Andrew McCoy. Got that, Tony? And as before, can I have a show of hands to support these members being elected to the committee? Thank you very much. Anyone against? No. Okay, wishful thinking. I declare the committee is duly elected. Finally, Paul, can I hand back to you for our accounts examiner?
Thanks, Peter. So once again, I'm pleased to give a big thanks to Alison Griffiths for being our independent examiner. I really do value Alison's independent view and sign off on our accounts. And would not do this role without that independent view. So I think we need somebody, as I'm proposing that, and we need somebody therefore to second it. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to do the voting as well? Yeah.
Oh, yes, sorry, you have to vote on that as well, don't we? Those that vote for. And anybody against? I'm glad about that, because Alison's not here.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Right, so Alison's duly elected as our accounts examiner. Right, we're nearly at the end of the opening bit. Can I just one other thing which we need to notify everybody about as well, which is the date of our next AGM. It's in our constitution that we actually have to give people 1 year's notice, would you believe, of our next AGM, which will be on the 13th of May, 2026. Look forward to seeing you all here. I think, Tony, we were proposing to come back here as well, aren't we? I think this is quite a nice venue. What do people think? I think because we have been to St Andrew's Church, and I think there were some concerns about the acoustics of it. Maybe the screen, I think, wasn't as visible as this. Hopefully everyone can see the screen even from the back. So I think we will probably come back here again. Anyway, so yes, for those of you who haven't yet got your 2026 diaries, because some of you maybe only get it as a Christmas present, but if you can make a note in your electronic diary of the fact that that is when our 2026 AGM will take place. Okay, that closes the formal part of the AGM. So thank you very much for sitting through that. Hopefully there were 1 or 2 interesting bits in there that you found helpful. So what I'd like to do now is to hand over to Luke Taylor to actually say a few words about his experiences in becoming our new MP. Can I pass you over to that?
Thank you very much, Peter. It is brilliant to be here. I was here last 8 hours ago when I got to my boarding this morning for school, and I was a couple of weeks ago in parents' evening, so it's slightly awkward here. I'd just like to start by just congratulating Peter and the rest of the committee on what is probably gold standard across our business associations in terms of engagement, in terms of quality of output, in terms of the neighbourhood plan, and in terms of the alertness to any application that comes through and the notifications that go out to advise people that they need to point out various issues with the council. It's interesting, I will pick up though.
I don't know, did you, because I just swapped one battery over, did you swap both? Oh yeah?
Shields back and really on
Yeah, more.
the constraints that we have.
He told me you put new ones in.
When so often decisions that we make
Annoying
as
is
councillors end up being decided by an inspector somewhere else. So whilst we may not be able to make every decision the way that we might want, the worry is that with the changes to planning that are, the planning infrastructure bill that's going through Parliament at the moment, we may well have even less control over what happens locally. So that is something that we are trying to stand up for and to reduce
I think it's a dead duck.
the taking away of powers for local residents to make those decisions. So that is something that definitely is on our radar. I would
go and grab
just
from
double
home
check
if you
around
want.
currently paid up member.
From
my home.
I am getting emails. I assume I'm not.
Have you got any immediately to hand?
Not paying any
Not right now.
I was
We'll
asked
manage. We'll
to
manage
give
with
a
the one.
little bit of an
We'll
overview
manage
of
with the one.
what
Thanks anyway.
my life is like as an MP and what I've been doing. And I realised that the best way to do that is just to give you a bit of a run through of what I have done so far this week and what we're going to do for the rest of it, just to give you an idea of the sheer range. And as I was writing down from my diary, I surprised even myself at all the things that we could do. So this week so far, Monday morning, I had 2 meetings with representatives of Hong Kong groups. Obviously, it's us, we've got the biggest Hong Kong community populations anywhere in the country, and issues relating to transnational repression by the Chinese state that is affecting us overseas. Really a big concern. There's also issues across London. For example, the super embassies being proposed in Town Hill is a big thing that local residents are really concerned about. And on behalf of the local party, focused on sustainable aviation fuel, which is lower carbon fuel for existing aircraft, but also how we can encourage the next generation of hydrogen aircraft, electrical aircraft, and all various hybrids of that. So that's something I feel very passionate about. That we're doing a lot of work on actually share with the APG on the future of aviation, aviation travel, and sustainable travel, basically. So it's something that I'm doing a lot of work on we had a briefing from the Met Police on the live facial recognition systems that are being implemented in Croydon, and we're seeing distributed on supply streams. So we've got a lot of concerns about the civil liberties aspects of that, how that data is being stored, how it's being used, whether it is being held in perpetuity, and concerns around how widespread that's going to become. We see the facial recognition cameras on the corner of every street, and how are the police, how is the oversight of how the police are using that? So we had a briefing there where we raised some concerns again of some of our communities who have moved here from a authoritarian state that surveils the movement of all their residents and are now worried about seeing that problem here. So that's something that we are trying to pay a lot of attention to. Yesterday I had a meeting with the new hospitals where I pressed the need to get on with the new hospitals programme that Peter mentioned earlier. I'm sure it's subject to many questions later on. But that meeting is a really good opportunity to lobby the minister directly for first of all the need for repairs at the hospital, which I'm sure any of you who have been there recently is in dire need of repairs, is in dire need of expansion because of all the beds and corridors where patients are being treated. The level of care there is incredible from the start, but within the building it is a dire condition, and with an expected wait up to 12 years before the new hospital building is even started. We've got real worries, as you may have heard, Bobby Dean asking the Prime Minister's questions this morning, pushed functioning and without a catastrophic collapse over the next 12 years. So that is something that both I and Bobby are pushing really, really hard in the government to come forward. And one of the other subjects that I had yesterday in the meeting with the Minister was trying to find alternative sources of funding to try and bring that project forward. We've got a massive opportunity in Belmont with the Cancer Hub. We've got massive projects happening there, as again Peter alluded to, planning applications on it. We try and understand what opportunities there are to find alternative sources to try to deliver that earlier than possible, because again, the promise of that new hospital being open in 2025, unfortunately, no funding was allocated for it. So we are in a position where everybody expected that to come along. It's very easy to make promises if there's no rationale or no funding behind it. So unfortunately, we are in a really difficult position here, having to get to the point where this new hospital program comes along. I also attended the APPG on hospice and end-of-life care, and that leads into what work I'm doing to try and support the RAS hospice in North Ching, which serves all of Sutton, Merton, and a very small part of Wandsworth. Hospice is struggling. All hospices in the UK are struggling to RAS, particularly because they get a much lower percentage of their funding from the NHS compared to a lot of other hospices. So we put a lot of pressure on the government to try and understand why we are so short-changed in Sutton, why we don't get the same share of funding, and why RAS doesn't appear to be, and I'm happy to say it doesn't appear to be as valued by the local NHS as it is by the local residents. So that's something that is a big part of what we're campaigning on. I attended a reception today by a company I used to work for, Arab, the engineering company, to talk about infrastructure needs. I'm the Liberal Democrat spokesperson for London, so I get involved in a lot of bigger infrastructure discussions across London. So that's talking about rail lines, tram lines, the importance of High Speed 2, a big infrastructure project to deliver the growth that we're going to need to deliver the increasing wages and general improvement in quality of life that we need to see. And the government are talking a lot of hot air, but actually are they delivering with investment in infrastructure? That's something, again, similar to the aviation problems, it's something that I'm a lot of interest in. Earlier today, I was lobbied in Parliament by Palestinian rights protesters regarding the situation, the latest developments in Palestine and in Gaza, the conditions and the situation that is unfolding there, trying to encourage me to do whatever I can to put pressure on the government to stand up for Palestinian people as subjects that we get an awful lot of casework emails from, and it's something that all of us are very aware of, a real major humanitarian crisis occurring. And on a lighter note, I joined the Commons and Lords Cricket Club today, and that adds to the Commons and Lords Rugby Club and Football Club, which I'm a member of. I'm trying to get gaming for each in my time as an MP, just to enjoy some of the perks of great training, probably referred to. Tomorrow, I'm going to be the spokesperson in a debate around youth services. It's a backbench table by Jason MP and Times, Croydon, and that will be talking about the real impact of cuts to youth services and what that means for youth crime and opportunities, and what we need to be doing to reverse it. And spoiler alert, the opportunity more money to councils to provide facilities and activities for young people to ensure that they don't end up in hanging around on street corners and committing antisocial behaviour and the like. We also have later this week the assisted dying bill coming back for report stage. It's an incredibly emotive subject. We have had, again, a massive amount of casework in on that. It's going to be really emotional there. I think a lot of MPs are very still undecided on it. I think I am, in all likelihood, going to be voting in favour of the bill on Friday to see it move on to the next stage. Whether that is a conclusive vote that it will then be implemented, or whether there'll be further days of debate, we're not entirely sure yet. well. So that's a big thing that's happening on Friday. And then over the weekend, I'm going to be going to Christian Aid Week, the Trinity Church, to hear about all the activities they're doing. And also coming to the Tune Charter Fair, where hopefully I will see many of you there. So I think I've spoken for long enough. I don't know whether you want to go straight to questions or you can do your...
I think so, yes. We'll have to make do. Apologies for actually messing around there. We did have a second microphone, but I can't make it work. So we're going to have to fight over this one.
Yeah. I'll let you have it back, but thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Luke, for that introduction. Right, I don't doubt that you have some questions for Luke. Well, hang on a moment, that's the wrong slide. Let's just come back one. No? Oh well, forget the slides altogether. I thought there was one that had your name on it. Never mind. We'll leave it as that one. We'll leave it at that one for now. Right, questions, please. Who would like to have a question? David in the front here. We're going to have to share this microphone, I'm afraid.
I'll try and holler. I think you can probably hear.
Thank you. David Ramsey, I live in Chiltern Road. Noting your interest in aviation, I wonder if there's anything can be done about the helicopter route that flies over the eastern part of our area. They seem to be very low. They're certainly very noisy.
Yeah.
And it's quite irritating.
It's a really good point. It's not something that I have had yet in my inbox, but I like the sound of it, and absolutely we can look at what the recommended routings are, because if it is causing a disruption to residents, and there are routes that they will take it over less populated areas or fly at higher levels, then that's definitely something we can push for. There's actually a airspace review going on at the moment. First of all, it's been done in Scotland, and then it's going to be coming down looking at Heathrow and Gatwick. And that's, but it's going to be quite interesting. There are opportunities to look at where there are noise problems with existing routes. So it's helpful to know that that is an issue.
I think.
I've got actually a point of order on that, because I am a pilot, okay, and we are sitting right on the corner here, the London Terminal manoeuvring area, okay, the TMA of London Heathrow. We are right on the corner. Sorry, can't you hear me? Sorry. If you look at the half million map, still printed actually, for London Aerospace, you will see that actually the bottom of the Mad Mile, the roundabout there, is the corner. You should have looked at that map.
He can say that. I'm not going to say
Okay.
I'm not going to say
But they can't go any further north. Okay, they have to come around the corner, no more than 2,500 feet, and they can fly over 1,000 feet, and they're perfectly legitimately able to do that. I do. Sorry, I do.
Ah, so we know. Okay.
In a light aircraft, but hopefully not so noisy.
I must admit, I thought that one of them cut the corner, because there is a corridor on the way up to Battersea Heliport.
Is it okay if I ask you to be my news rather than me?
Yeah. If you have a helicopter and you own it privately, you can legitimately fly it down the Thames.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the route we get the Chinooks over the
Yeah.
Parliament twice a day, which is terrifying.
If you're still in contact with your erstwhile predecessor Tom Brake in Carshalton, he was an aficionado on that. He did a lot of work. Tom did with helicopters.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So he's a
My garden on the 6th of June, when the derby starts.
Oh yeah.
And they come
Oh,
up.
yeah. It's all the jockeys coming in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So helicopters. That's one thing for it. Right. Any more questions? Any more a different topic this time? Anyone? Anyone?
Go on then.
Go on then.
Hello, you alright? So, I'm a journalist, a lighting magazine, but also a lighting designer, and I remember that Sutton had a large pot of money, I think it was 12 million, maybe your predecessor spent it, but it was just the development of the high street, but I think that could probably be utilised around this area, is that not true? And also, there's something I'm really interested in, which is we're quite lucky to have quite a lot of flora and fauna around this area, and unfortunately, the lighting isn't really accurate, because new research shows that the white core light is very bad for any sort of flora and fauna. So, I mean, given the state of nature, which is probably Plus, it's a residential road, so it should be used for cool lighting. Can you do something about that?
Yeah.
Can you get me? I mean, we should probably chat about the. I do a lot. I've done some work with Islington Council for Promenade Bike, and also the only European prize big one, which is a bargain. So I offer my services to something free, but just a coffee.
So I think you emailed me about that. You're the gentleman who emailed me about that earlier today, aren't
Is that were they up there?
you? Yeah. So what you're saying is that it's 4,000 or 6,000 K colour, and it should be
it's really bad.
It should be 2.7 or something like that.
Because the birds, you can hear the birds at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they're just going to die.
You really can.
Yeah.
It's not right.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
So I'll have an attempt to answer this, and Tony in the back. So we sit on the Environment Sustainable Transport Committee together, and we've been discussing recently, or we're just going through the final stages of the replacement of all of our remaining incandescent street lamps. It is an expensive project, but it's going to save a fortune and a massive amount of energy by using LED bulbs. But it's a really good point about the nature impact of that change. It's not something that I was necessarily aware of. I'm happy for you to reach out, and then we can challenge potentially some of the spec of those if it is something that can be improved. So really happy to set that up. And then in the Future High Streets Fund, the vast majority of the money, you're absolutely right, is being spent on the High Street, on Sutton High Street. The conditions, I believe, of that funding was it was on defined projects. It allowed the council to purchase a number of buildings, like Throw Yard, I think, the old Wilco's underneath, the what is now the Popeyes chicken building, and the old New Look, I think it was. It's good chicken. And that has allowed us to take control of those businesses and really attract in, and again, the question is over whether you want run-down empty shops or you want businesses in there that are bringing residents to the high street, bringing footfall. Sutton High Street is one of the only high streets in London that's actually seen an increase in footfall since pre-COVID. So we're one of the only ones that has actually seen an increase from that very, very low point. So there is something that we are doing right here. There will never be good enough. We'll always want to see more quality shops. We want to see better quality public realm. But it is something that we are trying to do. Kind of with my councillor hat on a little bit. We are trying to do the best, and there will always be discussions over whether the money has been best spent on this particular project or best spent on that particular project. But it is something that the council, supported by the previous government through the Future High Streets Fund, is trying to do. Get people in, get buildings refurbished, and get actual quality shops to attract people in. But happy to chat about the right.
Where's your email address?
I will find a card in my bag.
Yes, I should have put that up on there, wasn't it? Right, we have a question from the back over here. Hang on a moment. Loud and clear, please.
Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm going to be a bit cheeky here and ask more of a personal question. I have tried writing to you a few times and unfortunately I haven't had any reply. But I'm currently a third year politics student at the University of Nottingham, and I know Chris Rayling, the ex-MP for Epsom Newell, used to offer political work experience. I was wondering if you plan on actually offering some out?
You're right, that's a cheeky one. That's what you're okay, yeah. But why not? If you don't ask, you don't get. Yeah.
No, and the simple answer on that is, and the reason we haven't got back to people yet is that we've not set it up. What we're trying to do is get a programme that works for placement in a couple of days in the office here, a couple of days in Parliament. We've just not had a chance to build it up yet. And we are trying to get applications from university students, also school students as well. It is something that is really difficult to get right, to get good. We've just not managed to do it yet. But if you email us, you are on the list. I would at least give you the courtesy to get back to you.
Okay, do we have any more questions, cheeky or not? Hello.
Can I ask you about transport links? When you see the Elizabeth line that's been created, and you see how the northwest of London has got such great links into London, And then you look at Sutton, we've heard talk about the tram line coming, we've heard talk about a tube line coming to Sutton, and nothing ever happens. We then have the cancer hub that's hoping to move in, and I think that's why probably there, aren't they? But with more people coming in from the south of the borough, the transport links just aren't there. What can you do to support us in Sutton to get better transport links?
Thank you very much. So, I'm not going to disagree, but so Sutton currently has some of the best connections into the four major stations. We've got good links into Victoria, Blackfriars, King's Cross, Pancras, and London Bridge from Sutton Station. But I think really good point you raised about the cancer hub and the links with the town centre and around the tram. Now the centre of gravity of employment in Sutton is shifting south. There is a much greater and renewed argument for the travelling that was proposed many years ago. I think the original plan for travelling was town centre. That was without the demands that you would see on the Belmont site. I think there's definitely an argument to look at that again. The challenge is that the levelling up funding that was given by the previous government for the upgrade of the Belmont line is what they are using as the justification for the answer to your question about linking. So you can get 4 trains an hour to go on the station. It's going to be the slow train that goes via Croydon and into Victoria, I think, but it is going to be an increased capacity. Something that we're looking at in our office is about working out connectivity between the cancer hub site, where the future new hospital site, and St Helier and Epsom. So I think that's connectivity that is difficult at the moment. Yes, there is a bus, but it is not a direct bus. There used to be a shuttle bus between the sites, but actually it stopped because there was not much demand. But with the change, facilities are being provided on the cancer hub site and the proposed new hospital. And again, those situations change. And I think whenever situations change, you need to look at the evidence and work out what the right answer is now. So it is something that you definitely can lobby for. I think the last meeting I attended here, one of the points that was raised around links into central London was to try and replicate the Superloop bus approach, because obviously now we've got these express buses. Ultimately, obviously, you can get to Heathrow, it takes an hour and a half, but looking at potentially having those express buses into Morden, so we can connect to the Northern Line into College Wood. One of the options considered when the tram link was looked at originally was a busway on the route of the Thames that would get you almost all the way up to Morden. But using on-road express buses is something that would be very low cost, because you're just using existing roads. Again, it's something that we can definitely push for. So all of the novel new approaches, I think, is definitely what we've got to revisit now. We've got this massive development here, lots of jobs, lots of commuters, lots of people coming there. And I think that is a really valid concern, something that is going to need to be examined in the planning application. The 400-page, I think it was, transport.
464.
So I'm sure we will all be poring over later tonight. But these are things that we need to be improving and ensuring that the government, and it's a regular issue, that the infrastructure is provided for the development that we are delivering. The same goes for shops, GPs, dentists, hospital places, the new home. It goes for bus routes and parking as well on the site. So how are we delivering that? So it is absolutely something that is on our list of things to do. We'll definitely add it as a bit of a priority.
Can I just add a couple of extras to that? You talked about critical mass moving. Of course, the critical mass actually in London is shifting as well, because you mentioned the fact that the existing services are planned on going to Victoria. Well, of course, Docklands is very much taking over and it's really quite hard to get to Docklands, particularly outside the sort of the once you go after 7 o'clock, it's quite difficult. So I think one of the things that would be really good would be, because we have talked in the past about whether there could be more of a tie-up with the overground, the link that would actually go out that way to actually handle that. So I think that was point number one. Just while we're talking about buses, we had a lot of pressure as well for the better service to Gatwick. I know the 420 recently has been extended so that you can sit on it as long as you take your sandwiches, because it's quite a long trip. Takes about an hour and a half, I think, because we used to have the express bus that actually went down to Gatwick from here. So that's another thing for you. And the third one, before I hand the microphone back, is would it be possible to lobby so we could actually get the S2 to go to Epsom Hospital?
Yes. So on the last point first, that is exactly what we did at scrutiny. So still serves council, right, and sit on council committees. We had TFL and the NHS come to scrutiny the last meeting, and one of the questions we asked was about the connection to the hospital. They said yes, they want to do that. It's just working out how the route would work and the kind of the parking and staging and everything. So it is something we requested. Gatwick, I will channel my inner Peter Geringer, who is a councillor in Worcester South, who was he claimed that a major part of the implementation of the original bus in the first place, and I have no reason to disbelieve it, but he really pushed very hard for us to work together on trying to get that express bus back to Gatwick Airport. And the interesting thing that is coming up, the opportunity, is going to be around Gatwick Airport. Planning permission for the use of their second runway is expected to be awarded in the coming months. Part of those constraints on permission to use it is going to be around increasing their local share of public transport access in the airport. So Gatwick Airport is about to have a massive pressure on them improving the public transport connectivity to the airport. So what there is the opportunity there is to say to them, well, look, you provide an express bus route to South West London, to Sutton, to Kingston, and the region. You are going to be providing and increasing the amount of people who don't have to take a taxi because it is impossible to get there, genuinely impossible to get there by public transport. Unless you want to take sandwiches and leave the night before on the
420, yeah.
Yeah, but it is a really strong argument, and this is something that is in our plans to try and pressure and to lobby Gatwick Airport particularly to help with the funding that will supplement the business case for that route, because National Express stopped it because the claim was that there wasn't business and demand for it. So it is something that should be coming back on the agenda.
Yeah.
And the first question was...
Well, it was about the critical mass, actually, of workers actually being in Docklands now, not Victoria.
Yeah, so and you also mentioned the overground. And this is something that TFL are kind of floating. The challenge with that is that you have a limited capacity on the rails, and there is a worry that if you do end up with a metro service, which is the TFL service, which is 5 carriage, shorter trains, more regular, you then take up the express, faster trains, take up capacity on the rails, so you actually lose out. They claim that they're able to do both. I am very sceptical. So it is something that we are quite wary of. I think there was a lot of appetite in the past for saying, look, we want the overground to come to us and we want those more regular services. We do need to understand what the trade-offs would be with those fast, regular services that I think a lot of people who move to Sutton rely on to get into work in the city centre. And your point, though, about challenges to get to the east is a really good one. I've had to do it a couple of times, and you end up going into London Bridge, which ends to the tube and getting on there. It is a nightmare.
I mean, there is a route. That's the frustration here. Is there's a route there. There's a rail route which would actually take you to into Docklands. So that's a question of scheduling. All right. Thank you very much. I'll take one more, and then we'll move on to the next thing. There's a gentleman over here.
My question is on the crimes and the thefts.
There you go, Cecilia.
Yeah, my question is on the crimes and thefts happening around. So it's been increasing quite a lot these days, and
And from the police as well, they just also the case immediately.
Is that any particular crimes you're concerned about? Is it burglaries
For
or?
example, even the bikes, they're coming into our sheds and taking the bikes.
Okay.
Really, cars.
Can you handle that one, or is that more a
Yeah,
police
no,
one, really?
This is it's a really good question. So the question is about increasing crime, people worrying about things being stolen from sheds, we mentioned bikes. The police crime and policing bill that I've been sitting on for the last 7 or 8 weeks included commitments to community policing, which is all well and good. The government talk about improving community policing across the country. Everybody knows that that is the most effective way to make people feel safe and to reduce crime. If you can got again, part of the cliche, bodies on the beat, actually visible and around the community. The question that I asked then resulted in a point of order yesterday by the police minister, which confirmed that the Met Police will be suffering cuts of 1,419 in staff and officers next year. So there'll be a huge cut in policing capacity in London next year. Now in Sutton, a lot of the impact is going to be taken up by school officers, school liaison officers. And these are officers who are in schools and they are providing that contact with young people to allow them to come to police with issues that they've got, whether they are trying to be approached by gangs or they're at risk of being dragged into again, another thing about life crime, you always worry about young people being susceptible. It's going to have a massive impact on communities, and it's something that we issued a press release immediately when we got the details. We are pushing to answer exactly what the impact of that is going to be. I was bobbing in Prime Minister's questions today to try and convince the Prime Minister about what that means for London's residents who will be clearly less safe next year because there are fewer police and fewer staff available. There's going to be cuts to forensic services, there's going to be cuts to dog support teams, there's going to be cuts to the park police. These are really worrying issues, and I have the same worries that you do. Now, it is a fact, which is not reassuring, that Sutton has some of the lowest crime rates in London. That is irrelevant when people are seeing cars being stolen, sheds being broken into, they feel unsafe on the high street. And it is the reality of people's experiences and their fear of crime is as relevant as whether it is actually happening. We are pushing the police to explain to us exactly what the impact is going to be. We are pushing to improve those community policing teams so that you have enabled officers, so you can work closely together with your safe neighbourhood teams. It is something that we are in constant dialogue with the police about. The kind of tangible actions I would recommend to you is report all crimes, even if you think that it is your shed's been broken into but nothing's been yet. Make sure you report that so the police know it's happening, because if everybody on the street reports it, and even if nothing had been stolen when previously they wouldn't have done it, then the police know that there is a pattern of events happening. So please do, and I'm sure your members get this from your safe neighbourhood teams and from the neighbourhood watch teams. Make sure you're reporting everything so that it is measured, it is monitored, and perhaps spotted. That is what you can do as residents to kind of help the police target where incidents are occurring. But it is absolutely part of my job to continue to put the pressure on the police to make sure that we are not let down in outer London. One of the big problems we suffer from is abstractions, which is where when there are protests in central London, our officers are sent in to assist. That is something that has been happening less recently, but we need to make sure that that is not something that we lose out on because of these cuts that are coming through the Mayor's office. And to be fair to the Mayor, it is because the government is giving the London Mayor less money to spend on his police services. So, to a certain extent, his hands are tied. I know, Ed putting fingers in it, Councillor Garrett does a lot of good work on London Assembly, scrutinising the police and scrutinising the Mayor and his management of the police. And it is something that I am doing in government. So you are getting good representation at all levels to try and make sure that that is the mayor and the government held to account.
Yeah, what they're doing, I will read out to the mayor using the WhatsApp. As soon as something happens, it doesn't out. We're just messaging you, we want to be safe.
Yeah, but are you, I mean, just to emphasize what Luke's just said as well, it is important that any crime, no matter how minor actually, are reported to the police. And the best way of doing that is actually not by dialing them, but if you go onto our website, or I put it out in most of the e-bulletins, you can do it online to the Met Police, you put it straight into their system, so you're not taking up any police person's time by doing that. But what's important is that the nature that the crime's actually being committed does actually go, and they've got a system called Crimint that they actually run, and it's in our interest to do that, because the more crimes we can validly show happening in our area, the more attention we will get. They do a lot of intelligent forecasting as to where they should deploy their officers, and the more we can actually show. So don't sit on it thinking, oh well, I won't waste a policeman's time by actually reporting it. You're not doing us any favors. The important thing is to bang it in through the computer system, because you're not wasting the computer system's time, and it then actually helps everybody. I think, to be fair, I mean, and if you want to know what, if you just type in online police online report, I think, into Google, or if you go onto BSCRA website, the email address is actually on there. I mean, I think there has been, I think probably the biggest crime we're suffering from, sadly, at the moment is burglary. And there's been quite a few burglaries actually happened, particularly on the periphery of the area. So, you know, particularly the roads back onto golf courses, we've had a number of burglaries in that area at the moment. So anyway, and on resourcing, we are one PC light in Cheam, although we're full complement in Belmont. So. But one of the other good things, which if people are interested, I can circulate, because I also sit on the Safer Neighbourhood Board, which is for Sutton, and one of the things I've been pressing them for, and it seems to, I don't know whether it's just me doing it or whether it's happening anyway, we are getting information now on what they call outcomes, because previously I was getting very frustrated because you get lots of information about this crime's being committed and that crime's being committed and that crime's being committed, and you don't need any policeman to do that. You just need someone to sit on the end of a telephone. What I needed to know was what's being done about it. And this new figure called outcomes, which they're now publishing, does actually show where people have actually been apprehended. It doesn't mean to say that they've necessarily been to court and actually then been charged. It basically says the police are doing their work. It doesn't mean to say they've been sent to prison or whatever, or anything like that, because that's a different part of the judiciary system to actually do that. But it's a useful number, and if people would like me to circulate that, I can do that. I don't believe it's confidential. Right, I think, to be fair, I've got one or two other things I wanted to run through as well. So I think, can we say thank you very much indeed to Luke? And I'm sure people can find your email address. Apologies for not having it up on the up on the screen here. Now we've got a few more minutes. What I thought, if people are interested, what I thought I would like to do is just give you a quick overview as to what this new London Cancer Hub planning application is actually doing, because I do need as many of you, if we can sort of have as many people reading it as possible, albeit 136 documents, one of which is 454 pages. It's actually not quite as formidable when you actually break it down. It's not quite as bad as it actually sounds. Let me just run on through. Hang on, let me just check what slides I've actually got here. I've got one or two pictures for you, because pictures are worth 1,000 of the other things, aren't they? Right. Let's run through some of these. Oh, well, that's the slide I was looking for. In case you were wondering, it was Luke Taylor who was just talking to us. Okay, I knew it was in there somewhere. Right, other things that I was quickly going to run through. Right, London Cancer Hub planning application, and I'll run on into the Levelling Up Fund as well. Right, for those of you who know the area, this is actually what is now being referred to, not as the London Cancer Hub, but as the London Cancer District. Would you believe? Yeah. Well, Aviva have actually associates have actually come up with this, because the London Cancer Hub, as far as they're concerned, is the green bit, which is the land that what we're all going to be talking about in terms of this planning application refers to. We've always thought in the past that London Cancer Hub also includes the Marsden, Epsom and St Helier, Institute of Cancer Research, and actually, to be fair, legally, it includes the allotments as well. But now, because there's so much confusion as to whether or not when people say London Cancer Hub, do they mean the whole thing or do they just mean the green bit? All the documentation is now referring to the whole thing as being the London Cancer District. And you can see from there who owns what. And the London Cancer Hub now, associates are referring to as just their green bit. What the planning application now proposes, as I mentioned earlier, it's what they call a hybrid application. So it's got a phase 1, which has got a lot of detail in it about exactly what it is they're going to do. And then it then goes on to an outline planning application, but it's all in the same one for their phases 2 and phases 3. And you can see those from the colours on here. So the detailed planning application in phase 1 is the blue bit, all right? Their phase 2, which is now moving into the outline, is the yellow bit, and there's a phase 3, which is also in the outline, which is the brownie coloured bit. And I put a pretty picture on the bottom corner there, because that's the sort of thing that that's what they say it's actually going to look like. That's the view from Cotswold Road. Moving on in that case, that's sort of a helicopter view. So that picture I showed you just a few moments ago is looking at it from there. This is Cotswold Road here. You've got the Harris Academy in the background. I don't know. So do you get a flavour as to where that is? Can you visualise where that is? The big building here, the one with the research labs on it, that's part of their phase 2. So the phase 1 won't be that. The phase 1 will be this welcome bit down the bottom where it's got the learning lab, the building behind, and another building behind this one. So that gives you an idea of the sort of thing they're looking at, which is actually quite futuristic and quite nice. And the other thing which we are reasonably pleased about is there's nothing very tall running on the Cotswold Road frontage, which is good. Because obviously there's residential houses here, and we don't want massive buildings in front of those. Looked at from another perspective, that's the same thing. All of these pictures, by the way, I've taken out of I can't remember whether they came out of the 464 page or the 136 page, but these are all clipped from the planning applications. I haven't made anything of this up. So that's that low building that we saw before, Cotswold Road here. That was that tall building. So the ones that they're going to go for to start with is this one, this one, this one, and this one. And then that will come in as part of phase 2. And then at the back, this is part of phase 3, they're proposing some on-site residential for key workers. So does that give you a flavour as to what it is? I mean, one of the things which is I'm a bit concerned about how tall this building, but one of the original design aims for the whole of the London Cancer Hub, when the whole thing was called the London Cancer Hub, is that the height should be like a pyramid. In other words, it should be low around the edges and high in the middle. Okay, and that's certainly what they're trying to achieve, because the tallest buildings are at the back. This one's getting a bit toppy, and we may want to have some words about how high that is. But that's for phase 2. At the moment, we're merely looking at that one, and that one for the detailed application.
Still 6 and 8 stories.
Yeah, they are. Parking is always a key thing. What they're actually saying is that they're not going to provide more than 300 parking spaces. Now, bear in mind, so I don't want to defend them here. I don't want to defend them in any way. But bear in mind, the parking is only for the London Cancer Hub folk, their staff. So it's nothing to do with the hospital, if the hospital goes there. It's nothing to do with the ICR. It's nothing to do with the Royal Marsden. This is purely for the workers at the London Cancer Hub. And they're sort of coming up, they sort of jovially say, well, if someone says they're going to come in their car, then we won't recruit them. So, I don't know. Where the parking is going to be is these little bits around here are surface parking. But the major part about it is here and there, which is going to be ground floor and sub-ground floor parking. So the parking is going to be under the buildings, which is a reasonably sensible idea. It means to say we're not going to get massive multi-storey car parks and that sort of thing. The concern about it, though, is whether we think 300 parking spaces is anywhere near enough. Well, I was going to say, I mean, you need to temper that from the perspective that they reckon they're going to have once you've taken construction out of the way, and stable state, once they're actually fully occupied, 3,000.
So they're offering 10% parking.
Yeah. But the 3,000 is a lot less than they've been talking. Exactly.
You're going to have to go for controlled parking on that choice.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a TfL restriction.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to them, TfL are very anti, because TfL do not like the idea of parking, because you provide parking, it encourages people to use their cars. But as you rightly point out, if you're not providing the parking on site, all they're going to do is just park in the area around the outside of it and walk in.
And we're being ram packed now, so this will just make it.
I know. What's even? I mean, there's some other things here as well. Hang on a minute. Why is this not talking to me? Have I got a, yeah. Of interest here, which is of interest to David and Marcia sitting in the front row here, there's also a proposal for a pedestrian and cycle route in here as well. Now, in my view, a pedestrian may well be someone who happens to live in Chiltern Road and decided they want to walk in, but it's more likely a pedestrian has just got out of a car. So I'm a bit, we've opposed that, but to be fair, it's probably not a showstopper for the whole thing, because if it turns out to be a problem, they can just put a gate across it. I mean, that's probably, to be fair, the least of our worries, but it is a concern, I think, that by providing more pedestrian entrances, you're actually providing more places where people can park a car reasonably close to it and just walk in if they haven't got enough parking on site. I mean, the worry was whether or not they're going to open up something from Bawtry Close for sake of argument, which I'm sure, Catherine, you're not going to be pleased about. So I think we need to watch all, because they're looking at what they call increased permeability, but I think there's a danger here. It's a lovely word, that increased permeability, isn't it? Yeah, quite. Yeah. But there's a danger that actually all we're doing is opening up the roads for more on-street parking. Having said that, there isn't an awful lot of parking that nearby anyway, because we've obviously got the. I mean, one of the things that we may want to do is to extend the times of the Belmont controlled parking scheme, for instance. But again, not everybody's happy with that, because I've spoken to quite a few residents. I mean, if we were to extend, because that only runs from, someone from Belmont here, I think that only runs from, when does it run from to? 10 till 4, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I'm in Queen's Road, doesn't affect there, and the Crescent is not affected. So there's all those roads that they're just going to soak up.
All the
commuter parking now. Yeah. Particularly because people are trying to avoid users.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've got commuter parking, get the hospital there.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, why am I being fair? When the hospital comes along, you get a multi-storey car park. If the hospital comes along.
Well, that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think they can rely on that as
No,
an answer.
no, no. In fact, why don't if I just flick on down through here? Hang on a minute. I've got some other slides here quickly to go through, and I can show you that one. Look, that, if the hospital happens, it's all changed from. Do you remember we had some earlier slides where it had quite a big frontage actually onto Cotswold Road? Now that's its frontage onto Cotswold Road. That's all you get. It's going to be a building that runs like this, and in here. Oh, there's a bit of plastering needs to be done here. In here, that's where they're going to propose to put the multi-storey car park, which is actually where there is car park now. For those of you who know the site, it's where Sycamore House used to be.
They charge for it.
Oh.
Because they're charging for it.
Exactly.
So what's going to happen? They're going to park around the street.
Exactly. All right, let me just go back up to one of these two of these other slides. I'm just concerned about time actually, because I've got one or two. Well, we were there, weren't we? So in terms of what we think about this application. Parking's an issue. I think generally the problem is that they're getting, and to be fair, Luke was sort of alluding to it from the point of view of transport to the north. The problem is that TfL are on the one hand good, but on the other hand they're not a friend, because TfL don't care about Surrey. And if we look at some of the statistics that we've actually had from the Royal Marsden, for instance, 60% of the visitors to the Royal Marsden come from the south. TfL don't care a stuff about anymore. What's Surrey? It could be dropped off the end of the planet as far as TfL are concerned. Anyway, so I think parking's an issue. What's the next one? Oh yes, the next one. This is an interesting one, which we are sort of quietly supportive of, although obviously there's a lot of concerns about it. This is This is Cotswold Road. And as you're probably aware, one of the biggest problems with Cotswold Road is this junction here, which is the junction of Chiltern and the Brighton Road. They all come together. You've got that dreadful D roundabout there, which is so dangerous, and it's right outside the entrance to the school as well. We have been saying that something needs to be done to increase the capacity of that junction. They've done modelling of it. This is Arup, who's the consultancy company that Associates have employed, and their proposal is to put a road in through the allotments and effectively take this out altogether. This would be buses and cyclists only, no traffic on here. So the main traffic route goes down to a signal-controlled junction up there. From a traffic point of view, I think that's a great idea. Obviously, there are big concerns from the point of view of what it means to the allotments. Socios' proposal, though, is that actually what they're offering is that all of this land here, which is, for those of you who remember where Maple Walk used to be, the nurses' accommodation, that sort of thing, that all of that land there, they will convert into allotments. And that is the same area as what they're proposing to take out there. So there is no net loss in area of allotments. Luke? Yeah, I mentioned that, yeah. So that's that bit of it. And I mean, if that actually solves the traffic problem, I think that's a not unreasonable approach, particularly if we can keep the allotment keepers happy. And they say they're going to cultivate this land, they're going to put drainage in, they say they're going to put water in, they're going to provide sheds and that sort of thing to actually make it, and it will be cultivatable and usable day one. Now, what's interesting about this is that the road through there, the link road as they're referring to it, is a phase 2 requirement and is then dependent as to whether the hospital comes ahead. So, yeah, I know. The problem that the poor allotment keepers have got is that in the short term, this is now in black and white, this is actually now printed, and nobody wants to take on any of those allotments because they're worried that in 2 years, 5 years' time or whatever, they're going to have to get out from the allotments. So one of the points we've been making to Socius is, if you are going to propose this, and this application is going to go through, then this should be done as part of phase 1. So that even if we just leave that land fallow through there, people won't be afraid to take on new allotments. Okay, so that's an issue which people might have concerns about. The other aspect here is at the other end of the equation. Sorry, I haven't got a better map of this, and we've been having some discussions with it. This is more to the south. What they're proposing is to make Downs Road one way in the direction I've shown on the arrow there, and to put in a very complicated junction at the bottom there, which is where the bus stand currently is. The impact of that would be that if you're coming from Sutton, you want to go into Belmont, you have to go round what they rather quaintly call a jug handle. In other words, you'll have to turn left, go around the back of the bus stand, and actually come out at traffic lights, and then go straight across to get into Belmont. We're not overly impressed with that. We think that's unnecessary complication. They say, well, we need to do that to improve the throughput from Belmont, Station Road in Belmont. Well, we're not sure we want to increase the throughput of Station Road in Belmont, because at the moment, mainly that's rat runners actually going through there, and anything we can do to discourage people who offer no value to the shopkeepers would be a good thing. Our view is that the direction should be the other way around, in which case you don't need to do any of that fandango stuff on the left-hand side. It also makes this junction much safer up here as well, because this is not getting, one of the main causes for accidents at this junction is that traffic approaches it from too many directions. If the traffic was to be only leaving it that direction, you take away a point of entry and you make the junction inherently much safer. And the one final thing, just to complete the story there, as Luke was just saying, the other proposal is to close off the Cotswold Road end of Pelton. And what that would do, it wouldn't be totally closed. It would be what they call an open road closure. For those of you who know Cheam Village, you know where the Red Lion pub is in Cheam Village. There's what they call an open road closure there, which private cars are not allowed to go through it. And it's got those very sharp dragon's teeth thing to actually go in there. The idea is to put that at the end of Pelton. That would mean to say that your You know, a large vehicle, for instance, who can't do a three-point turn in the road could still go out, but normal traffic would not go out. And the Pelton, to all intents and purposes, becomes a cul-de-sac entered only from the Brighton Road. And I've spoken, Green, I don't know whether you've got any views, but I've spoken to quite a lot of your neighbours, and people seem quite happy with that. Because at the moment, it's actually quite busy going up and down the road. But anyway, there's something else you might want to comment on. Sorry?
We have that Burden Lane at the top.
At Burden Lane.
Right at the top, where they come off the roundabout really quickly. Very left.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because one of the things that we have thought about doing in the past is, you know, on the A3, when you're going up towards Robin Hood roundabout on the A3, there's a similar situation where there's a slip road on the left-hand side, where you can't go into it at certain times of the day. But the thought of actually closing that off, that was proposed about 8 or 9 years ago, and it was an enormous amount of objection, not least of which from the golf club, actually, to closing that junction off.
The reality is that there's so much roadworks going on in here, there's no likelihood it's not going to continue. You shut the road off, and then another road shut off, and you're in trouble.
Yeah, I don't think, to be fair, so the question was, there's so much other roadworks going on at the moment. I mean, as you're probably aware, the other roadworks, I think we should be pleased, actually. SGN are investing an enormous amount of money in improving our gas network, our gas supply network. I know it's causing aggravation and pain, but frankly, I think it's better that we have the aggravation and pain. They get it all over and done with. They get all this nice new yellow plastic pipe in, rather than what we've been having for the last 10 years, which some days they'll come along and they dig up that bit of Holland Avenue, and then they're going to dig up that bit of York Road, you know, because someone can smell gas. Yeah.
Peter, do we know the amount of people that are becoming by public transport in the direction of Redhill, Reigate, and Banstead?
What, to the London Cancer Hub?
Provision at all.
What, to the London Cancer Hub?
Yeah.
Well, you need to read this 464-page document. I think it's in Appendix 3, I think it is. Whether we believe it or not, I think it's another matter. Right, so that was that one. What else have we got in here? Yeah, just a very quick summary. This is actually the description of the application. All I've done is I've just cut and pasted in there, but it gives you an idea. The full application scope, 3 buildings, A1, A2, A3, both sizes, car and cycle parking, and obviously all the associated works to actually do it. Where it gets interesting, the outline application then goes on to actually talk about more buildings, between 3 and 9 stories, which is quite big, this sort of square footage. And what else have we actually got in there? Yeah, that's when the residential accommodation for key workers comes in. They're proposing 118 units.
Affordable units.
Yes.
Because that's probably where they're funding a lot of the work.
Well, could be.
Because he's not saying rental, is it? He's saying affordable.
Yeah.
Affordable to who?
Yeah. Anyway, some of the other things which are interesting as well, if you actually read through it, key points. I think these are the things that probably need to be read and considered. 3,000 jobs. Okay, that's fair enough. That excludes construction staff. Parking provisions capped at 300. We've spoken about that. I think that might be an issue for everybody. The building heights, I think we may need to consider. Building A3, 7 stories high, getting a bit toppy. I don't know. Then this last bit gets a bit interesting as well. The ground floor of most of the buildings, they seem to be opening for a variety of other what they call amenities. So they're talking about retail and food beverage options, well-being recreational facilities, spaces that foster innovation. We're also talking about retail, cafe, restaurants, early years, nursery, pharmacy, medical, blah, 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 food beverage, including public houses, wine bars, or drinking establishments. Read on. Yeah. So what is this place? You know, that was me thinking it was a cancer research place, but this sounds like a complete... Anyway, they say that this is primarily ancillary uses and primarily for the use of the workers on the site. There's a lot of stuff there. Yeah.
I think our councillors should look at the licence. This is what happened in Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
It's the councillors that really hammered it.
I know. I'm a bit concerned about the extent of this, actually. I mean, I quite understand that you would have a sports club, you know, because I mean, the Marsden has a sports club. They used to have a tennis club, for instance. I don't know. You need to think about this. I'm just conscious of the time. I don't want to go into much detail, but what I'm getting at is, if you're looking at it and giving us some comments, these, I think, are the things that you need to give us some comment on as to whether you think it's good or not.
Who's the architect?
It's actually on all the documentation. I should know the answer to that question. Oh gosh, Gensler, Gensler. Right, and finally, this is now me doing a bit of the selling job for Socius. Again, I shouldn't be doing this. This is one of their slides. I haven't made this one up, but all of this stuff is I've just clipped from their documentation from having done a very quick initial read of it. So you can see the total amount of space that they're actually going to be providing for life sciences, 78,000 square meters. Interesting enough, this one says homes for 222 key workers. Whether that means to say that some of the 118 are for 2 people, I don't know. I don't know that's where you reconcile those numbers. In addition to the 3,000 jobs that there will be once the thing's built, there's going to be 500 plus jobs during construction. And then you get the other numbers across the bottom, which is how wonderful it's actually going to be for the borough and the general national economy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's going to bring business to the location.
Yeah.
Not the locations nearby.
Anyway, just a quick starter for 10. If you see, those I think are the key things that you need to be looking at if you're actually going to be reading these 136 documents, including the 454-page one. The other project which is going on at the same time as this, there's this wonderful thing called the LUF project, which is the Levelling Up Fund project to improve mainly pedestrian routes between the London Cancer Hub and Belmont Station. And basically, you can read what it actually says there. Improvements to the station approach, making it look pretty, stop the parking in there, lovely flower beds, fix the flooding issue. They're talking about doing it in block pavers. I think we've been a little bit whimsical and said to them, well, if you don't fix the flooding, the block pavers will be floating out when the first floods. So maybe we need to do something about that. Pedestrian crossing for Cotswold Road. We have been pressing for a pedestrian crossing in Cotswold Road for some while because it's actually quite dangerous to cross the problem with it is that the current proposal on the table does away with most of the on-street parking for the residents who actually live in that part of Cotswold Road. We had a meeting there a couple of weeks ago with local councillors and also with highways folk. And there is a possibility that we found a way around actually being able to have both the pedestrian crossing and not getting rid of the on-street parking. But I don't want to say when you can roll it out because it hasn't been confirmed as to whether they can do that yet. But there is a possibility there that might not be as bad as we thought it originally was going to be by this change. Improved bus stop waiting area at the northern end of Cotswold Road. For those of you who are regulars in Cotswold Road, that's already been done. And they're going to put improved signage around the place. So that's sort of the public realm aspects of improving the access to Belmont Station. The other thing, which was alluded to a wee bit earlier as well, is the other half of the project is to improve the rail service to Belmont stations. They're going to double the frequency from 2 trains an hour to 4 trains an hour, but that'll only be to Belmont. It's not 4 trains an hour on the line all the way to Epsom Downs. It's only to Belmont and back again. And the Belmont station platform is going to be extended to allow 10 cars. And that service is currently, there's various stages they've got to go through, but the current plan is that would go live in December 2027. So it's going to happen before the hospital. What else have I got in there? Oh, I've done that one. That's just showing you the hospital. I think I'm there. Oh, the final one. Big plea with one of my other hats on. I was the Belmont branch of the Royal British Legion Poppy Appeal organiser for this year, and I need somebody else. If anyone fancies being a Poppy Appeal organiser, please volunteer. Okay. Did I have anything else? It's got a mind of its own, this thing, hasn't it? It doesn't want to stay on that slide. The other thing I will mention, because I spoke earlier actually about the British Legion, a very worthy charity. I'm also the membership secretary for it as well. So if anybody wants to join the Belmont branch of the British Legion, Keith White standing at the back there actually has some membership forms, or you can join online. Very worthwhile. Right. Okay. I think I got to the end of what I was going to do. Yes, it says questions. Right. Given that, I'm 2 minutes and 19 seconds after I said I was going to stop. Does anyone dare to ask a question? Andrew.
Yes, I do.
Hang on a minute. You've asked one, Andrew. Hang on, I'll let this gentleman have a go.
thing with every one that's been mentioned with a firm number against it.
What for the London Council?
Everything. The lot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
You'll be lucky.
yeah.
It's private funding. It's private.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, all the London Cancer Hub stuff is actually being funded by Aviva, the Aviva Capital Partners. You know,
Okay.
that's where our pension money's gone. You know.
Next year when I come in, I'll see a lovely listed, costed, listed everything.
Yeah. Andrew.
Yeah, I don't need the mic.
Just speak very loudly then.
Okay, in the WhatsApp group of roads,
Yeah.
our road is missing, Shirley Avenue.
Oh, we've got one.
I'm not sure. It's not there, it's not on the list.
I'm not aware you've got one.
No, exactly. It's quite a large road. Ray Road has one, it's got 4 houses.
To be fair, Ray Road is part of Burden Lane.
Okay.
They don't have. I cheated slightly because they don't have their own WhatsApp group, but they're actually after a part of the Burden Lane that Paul runs for us.
Well,
Yeah. Do you want to?
I mean, I live in the poor half of Shirley Avenue.
Oh well, you need it. You need it more in that case. You need it more, don't you?
North of Shirley Avenue.
Yeah.
But it's a long road. Why hasn't it got WhatsApp?
Oh, very good question. Right. Okay. Thank you for volunteering, Andrew.
Right.
This is this is a self-help organisation. You see. Everything's volunteers. All right. If you'd like to have a WhatsApp group for Shirley, I'll circulate all Shirley members and say on email, because that's the way I start these groups up. I just flood everybody in that road with an email that says, "Would you like to have a WhatsApp group?" And if I get a critical mass of people coming back. Oh, well, yeah, you've got to bear in mind, we've got, Paul, how many roads have we got in the area? We've got 100, and there's only about 50 WhatsApp groups there, so under half of the roads have got WhatsApp groups. Okay? Right, okay. I'm glad I got a volunteer for that. Right, I'll take one more cheeky question in that case. Here we go, a cheeky question.
Are there any clients signed up for this wonderful cancer affair that we've had a big talk about? Surely that's going to settle whether it's ever built.
Well, of course, they are funded by Aviva, who are very capital, they've got a lot of money. And they've actually employed, as associates have got a partner organisation called Populate, whose sole role in life is to actually find people to live in it. But I share your concern. I do share your concern, actually. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of square meterage, isn't it, that they're actually proposing to build. And bearing in mind, as you probably know, there's the Innovation Hub, which is already there, which is the 1960s building across the back of the site, and councils struggled to find people to take that on for research purposes. But who knows? Who knows? It may well be it will fly. So,
the cancer hubs encourage people all over the world.
Yeah.
Got Americans in the area now.
Right, am I going to have a non-political question from the back here, Mr. Pastor?
Thank you. My point is to do with the question you just had, actually. In my prior career, I worked at Royal Marsden for 7 years, so I'm quite familiar with this project, and I can tell you that there is a lot of interest in the Cancer Hub as was known, simply because of the proximity to things like the ICR, which is an internationally famous research facility. And many companies and organisations want to be in such close proximity to such a prestigious academic institution. For those of you that are unaware, the ICR and the Royal Marsden used to be one organisation, but at the formation of the NHS, they had to split because the ICR is technically an academic organisation. So, whilst obviously we don't know just yet, I think the chances are very high that this is going to be very popular amongst the life science industry. And I think there's already been, to my knowledge, one sort of soft expression of interest from a Japanese pharmaceutical company, even though the project is at the stage it's at the moment. So I think there's a strong chance.
Well, I think I hope you're right. And the people at Aviva running this project are by no means stupid. I mean, they're very astute guys. So hopefully what you're saying is right. Because I think more cancer research, I think most of us have actually know somebody who's been impacted by cancer one way or another. I mean, sadly, for those of you who know, one of our committee members, unfortunately, I attended his funeral yesterday, and he had bowel cancer, So, anything we can do to try and get rid ourselves of this this dreadful disease. So let's hope you're right. Let's hope you're right. Okay, I think without further ado, bearing in mind I am now 7 minutes past when I said I was going to stop, I will say thank you very much, everybody. Thank you all for coming. And look forward to seeing you at our AGM next year. Thank you.